My husband told me, "Your pregnancy disgusts me. Stop talking about it." The way he reacted when I took his words literally was unexpected. We had been trying for a baby for years, so when I finally became pregnant, I thought Tom would be just as happy as I was. But he never showed interest in baby names or nursery plans, and when the morning sickness became intense and I mentioned feeling nauseated at breakfast, he slammed his coffee mug down. "Stop talking about gross things while I'm eating," he said. "I'm tired of hearing about your pregnancy symptoms. You've become dull and unpleasant, and all you talk about is being pregnant. Just stop mentioning it completely." I looked at him in disbelief. 8 years of marriage and 3 years of fertility treatments, and this was his reaction to the baby we had both wanted? I set down my crackers and said, "Okay, I won't mention the pregnancy again." Tom seemed relieved and went back to his phone. When I started staying at my parents' house most nights because of strong smell aversions, Tom initially enjoyed the quiet, but after a week he began texting, "When are you coming home?" When I only replied, "Soon," his messages became more anxious. "Is something wrong? Talk to me." But I didn't. He had clearly asked me not to. The neighbors noticed and began asking Tom if we were separated. He kept explaining that
The nurses reacted immediately, and one even said, "Oh my God, what a terrible person." Tom rushed to the hospital, but had to walk past medical staff who had heard what he said, all looking at him with clear disapproval. When he entered my room, he appeared calculated rather than angry. He took out his phone and showed me a recording. "Good thing I recorded you," he said. "You admitted to deliberately keeping me from my child's birth. My lawyer says that counts as parental alienation." I looked at him in shock as he smiled for the first time in months. "Now," he continued, "let's talk about custody." I looked down at Luna, the baby I had prayed for and gone through 3 years to have, and realized I might lose her to someone who could not even tolerate hearing about her existence. My body felt tense as I stared at him, while my mom gently took Luna from my arms and stepped back toward the corner of the room. The nurses, who had been checking my vitals, paused, and one reached for the call button while another stood between Tom and the bed. Tom's lawyer entered behind him carrying a briefcase and placed a stack of documents on my bedside table. He explained these were emergency custody papers and that I had 7 days to respond before a hearing where they would argue that I had interfered with Tom's parental rights. My hands trembled as I read the claims stating I had put Luna at risk by not informing her father about the birth. Tom continued recording while his lawyer explained that my statement could be used to support claims of parental alienation and that it could affect custody decisions. My sister quickly picked up her phone and began contacting someone about finding an emergency family lawyer. My mom held Luna close and refused to move when Tom stepped forward, saying he wanted to hold his daughter. The nurse who had pressed the call button informed Tom that he needed to leave because visiting hours were over and I was still recovering. His lawyer argued they had a right to stay, but security arrived and instructed them to leave immediately or face further action. Before leaving, Tom pointed at me and said this was not over and that he would see me in court. My sister ended her call and told me her college friend knew an experienced family lawyer named Lauren McKnight who could meet us the next day at my parents' house. That evening, after I was discharged, I sat in my parents' living room holding Luna while Lauren reviewed Tom's recording and the custody documents spread across the table. She listened to the recording several times and then explained calmly that context is critical in family court. She said one statement would not outweigh months of documented behavior explaining why I stayed silent about the pregnancy. Lauren took out a notepad and began listing everything needed for our defense, starting with every message Tom had sent during the pregnancy. She requested copies of his voicemails asking for updates after telling me to stop, screenshots of my mom's posts describing her support, and statements from witnesses who heard Tom's earlier comments. My sister had already created a folder with screenshots of Tom's fake accounts and his repeated messages asking when I would return home. Lauren spent hours documenting every detail from the past few months, including the baby shower he missed, the stroller from his mother, his boss confronting him at the golf course, and his grandmother removing him from her will after the family dinner. 2 days later, Lauren called to warn me that Tom had filed a motion claiming I had postpartum depression and was unfit to care for Luna. She explained we needed to prepare for false claims and misrepresentation of facts. That same week, my dad returned home upset after encountering one of Tom's coworkers who asked if it was true that I had taken the baby without informing Tom. Tom had been telling colleagues that I refused to see his daughter and had left the hospital without telling him. These claims spread quickly at his workplace, and people who did not know the full story began to sympathize with him. Lauren submitted our response to the court the following Monday, including sworn statements from 3 nurses who witnessed Tom's behavior at the hospital. She also obtained doorbell camera footage of our home, showing Tom was rarely present during my pregnancy, often leaving early and returning late while I remained on bed rest alone. We included records from the delivery company confirming that the bed had been installed while Tom was at work and that he had no prior knowledge of it. Later that week, Tom's mother called me, deeply upset, saying she had not known the full extent of what he had said about the pregnancy. She explained she initially believed his version, but now understood the situation after speaking with my mom. She offered to testify and had already prepared a statement about the baby shower and Tom's lack of involvement. Lauren noted that having his mother support our case would be significant.
The police arrived quickly, and the woman tried to explain that she was only concerned about Tom. The officers asked for her name and checked it in their system. It turned out she already had a restraining order related to the custody case that prohibited her from coming near me or my family. They arrested her on the spot while neighbors watched from their windows. She continued calling out Tom's name as they placed her in the patrol car. Later, we learned she was the same woman Tom had been living with since Luna was born. The arrest was reported on the evening news. A reporter stood outside my parents' house describing a custody dispute that resulted in an arrest. Although names were not mentioned, people in town quickly realized it involved Tom. His co-workers saw the report and began connecting the inconsistencies in his story. The next day, his workplace called him in and placed him on leave pending an internal review. Tom's lawyer appeared in court attempting to withdraw from the case, stating he could not continue representing a client who was not truthful. The judge responded that it was too close to trial to allow a change of representation and instructed him to proceed. This development worked in our favor, as it suggested even his own lawyer questioned his credibility. We then scheduled depositions, beginning with Tom's secretary. She appeared nervous, but answered honestly. She confirmed that Tom never mentioned the pregnancy at work and seemed unaware when she informed him I was in labor. She assumed we had been separated because he never discussed an upcoming baby. She also noted that when he left work early, it was for golf rather than medical appointments. Lauren obtained a sworn statement from her. The country club provided records without requiring a subpoena. These showed Tom attended every golf session throughout my pregnancy, with no absences for prenatal appointments. The documentation included signed scorecards and bar receipts over 9 months. Lauren compared this with my medical records, which listed 32 appointments he never attended. The pattern was clear. At a pre-trial hearing, my mom testified about our 3 years of trying for a baby and how Tom initially appeared excited. She explained how his attitude changed once my pregnancy became visible, shifting from supportive to dismissive. She described how he avoided interaction, refused to engage, and showed no interest in ultrasounds. The judge documented everything carefully. At the next hearing, Tom's lawyer introduced the hospital recording, highlighting the portion where I said I had kept him from the birth. However, Lauren presented the full recording, including Tom's earlier statements and his focus on custody rather than concern for Luna. The judge's reaction reflected concern about his priorities. Lauren then submitted final evidence showing Tom had not purchased any items for the baby, no crib, clothing, or essentials. His financial records showed spending on dining and leisure activities instead. In contrast, I provided receipts for all baby-related expenses. Additional evidence showed he had purchased gifts for his partner during the same period. Tom's mother later testified, confirming that he had dismissed my concerns and described me as overly emotional when she asked about the pregnancy. She explained she only learned the truth after speaking with my mom and realizing Tom had not shared important information. Her testimony further demonstrated his lack of involvement. A guardian ad litem conducted a 3-day evaluation at my parents' home, observing my care for Luna and speaking with relevant individuals. The final report recommended that I retain primary custody, noting Luna was well cared for and that Tom had shown concerning detachment during the pregnancy. Meanwhile, Tom's partner attempted to contact witnesses and discourage them from testifying. This resulted in additional legal consequences, including charges related to witness intimidation. During Tom's deposition, he acknowledged making negative remarks about pregnancy, but claimed they were misunderstood. However, he was unable to explain his absence from appointments or his consistent prioritization of other activities. Further evidence revealed that Tom had researched custody strategies and legal tactics weeks before Luna's birth, indicating prior intent. Psychological evaluations were then conducted for both of us. My results showed normal stress responses with no concerns. Tom's evaluation indicated behavioral patterns suggesting difficulty accepting responsibility.